Hey, I'm Tim, and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show.
Hey, I'm Matt, and thanks for clicking on another Mr. Maple video. Today we're here in Maplewood Gardens. Now that's the original garden here at Mr. Maple, that's our parents' garden, and we're going to talk to you about one of our very favorite Japanese maples. We've already done a video on this before, maybe a few, but we wanted to come back with an update and an even better video on Acer Palmatum Mikawa yatsubusa.
We love this tree. It's one of our favorites. When we go visit other nurseries, we always ask people, and nurserymen and nurserywomen, what's your favorite Japanese maple? And the number one answer that we get is Acer Palmatum Mikawa yatsubusa. The tightly layering habit, the unique shape, the dwarf compact, can fit anywhere. It's one of those plants that really stands out from the crowd.
Yeah, Mikawa it's just one of those Japanese maples that everybody can feel drawn to. I mean, whether you're a novelist or a very experienced Japanese maple collector, it's a plant, the first time you see it, you get an emotional reaction to it. It's one of those plants you feel like you can interact with, and it just has that extra something that makes it so special. Now, part of what makes Makawi yatsubusa so special is that bonsai-esque shape. This tree is going to have a bonsai-like shape on its own. It kind of creates that tight layering. This tree is a green tree that goes to some amazing color changes in the fall too. Typically this tree in the fall is going to have a fiery orangey red, and it's a really nice picked up green most of the spring and summer. It's actually more of a Kelly green in the spring, getting a little darker as the summer goes on, and fall is exceptional.
I really like this plant when it's first leafing out because you get you get those green leaves, but with red petioles. And the contrast as it's just leafing out really makes it something extra, something special. And this is a plant that is so unique, so different. We were at the Swan Lake Iris Garden Festival, and they're like, you've got to go see our Muppet tree. It's out there in the gardens, and we went out to go look at it, and of course it was a Mikawa yatsubusa. They were so proud of their Mikawa yatsubusa, as they should have been.
Yeah.
And it's such a fun plant. It's great for children's gardens because it has that animal-like feel to it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those plants that doesn't get very big. Typically, this tree we're looking at is about 20 to 25 years old. So, I mean, this is a really old Mikawa yatsubusa. Typically, in 10 years, we're talking about a 3 to 4 foot tree and about 3 to 4 foot wide, but it just has such a nice shingling, layering habit that it gives this plant this fluffy appearance that is really attractive, and there's not much else like it.
It's so fun. You know, when it comes to Mikawa yatsubusa, it's habit, habit, habit. That's really what gets everybody so excited about this one. That tight shingling layering that this really draws people in. It just creates these little platforms of color, and it's just so unique and interesting in the landscape.
When Matt was on the executive board of the Maple Society, he pushed them to start the Maple of the Year program, similar to what the Conifer of the Year program is with the American Conifer Society. When that came up for the very first vote, Mikawa yatsubusa won to being the very first Maple of the Year from the North American Maple Society.
It wasn't even close. I believe this was back in 2015, and it was a resounding winner. I think it had like 80 to 90% of the votes that year amongst the members because it's such a popular tree amongst plant collectors. Now, even if you're a novelist of Japanese maples, this is one that's definitely going to speak to you.
Yeah, and so what Matt was saying, what that means is when you have the plant collectors, the people who geek out about these plants the most, this is still one of their favorites. And because of that, you know that it's really unique, really different, really special, but it's also a plant that's easy to grow in the landscape and garden. This is a plant that's good zones 5 through 9, and this is a plant that is fairly heat tolerant and performs well in the landscape or in containers. Key thing with containers, make sure you've got good drainage, of course. But this is such a great plant that adds such a great dynamic in the landscape and garden. We've put this at the entranceway here to Maplewood Gardens, and I think that's a excellent way to use Mikawa yatsubusa is put it as a focal point, something that really gets people excited as soon as they walk in. That's what we've done here at Mr. Maple. The chartreuse green lively feel contrasts so well with those textured leaves that it really stands out in the maple garden and makes something special here. So use it near a walkway, use it somewhere up close, use it somewhere that it can really show off, especially at entrances of gardens.
It's such a unique plant. Makawi yatsubusa has that Muppet-like characteristic that Tim described. It's almost got that Kermit the Frog-like color in the early spring. Maybe some of that dense V's in there maybe makes that kind of Kermit the Frog collar kind of look to it, because it's definitely something that people keep going back to saying it looks like a Muppet. Now those crazy arms kind of look like something you might interact with in the garden as well. It's definitely a favorite of my kids. Even out of leaf, this is a very unique plant because of that dense structure. even in those winter months, you know, everything's out of leaf, but that structure is so unique. You kind of have some bones there that look super interesting, architectural, and very, you know, stand outish even in the garden, even out of leaf.
And Makawi yatsubusa is a grafted clone. So there are lots of grafted clones of Makawi yatsubusa out there. Sometimes we may offer a Makawi yatsubusa seedling, which is a tree that's a variant and may throw some variation versus a grafted clone that's going to keep the chartreuse color and really have that nice dwarf compact size.
What makes Mikawa so popular really is that it's so versatile. This is a tree with Makawi yatsubusa that fits so many different uses. It's a little later to leaf out, so it works great for the colder zones. It's a little more heat tolerant, so it works great for those hotter zones like Texas. You know, this tree can go up to zone 9, and it, you know, I definitely always recommend late day shade in zone 9, but it is one that can push the envelope for full sun, for sure. It is one of the most sun tolerant Japanese maples we do. It is one of the most durable Japanese maples that we do in general. Now, this tree is also super versatile in its uses. You heard Tim mention containers. This tree works excellent in the container or in the landscape or for bonsai. It's one of the most popular Japanese maples we do for bonsai. So people will air layer pieces off of this, use that for bonsai, or use Makawi yatsubusa's seedlings to have that dense, compact trait, you know, to have an ungrafted bonsai. So it's a great starting point for a bonsai collector. It's going to be one of the most popular sought after forms for that.
And the reason being is this layering habit you see is created by short internodes. That means the spaces between the leaves is very short. Well, that makes a very slow growing, very tight plant, which is excellent for bonsai.
On the flip side of that, it's one of the hardest trees to graft because you actually have to cut through buds to graft Makawi yatsubusa. Now, it can be a skill that can certainly be mastered, but you do have to get used to kind of slicing through to create that scion.
And it is a more difficult plant to graft, and it is a slower grower. So whenever you're getting a Makawi yatsubusa, it's going to be much smaller than an Emperor 1 in a 1 gallon because an Emperor 1 grows so much faster. Typically our 1 gallons are about 2 years from graft. So whenever you're getting a 1 gallon, you're looking at a Makawi yatsubusa that's about 2 years from graft, but it does continue to grow, and at every stage a Makawi yatsubusa is extremely beautiful. And as you see here, we're looking at a 25-year-old specimen, and then a 1 gallon, people just freak out at the nursery and say, wow, what is this plant? I've got to have it.
They look cool at every single stage. It's definitely one of those bragging rights ones. We actually have an even larger one than this in one of our display gardens. We'll have to do some shots with that one as well. I think it was on Jim Putnam's episode. We actually were on HortTube and Jim talks to me in front of that one. But an amazing plant. We wanted to get here in front of a beautiful specimen that's a little more typical for what you could expect this one to look like even in a 20-year frame. Amazing plant, and definitely one of our most highly sought after and most highly talked about Japanese maples that we do here at MrMaple.com.
Makawi yatsubusa is both exceptional, beautiful, adds something unique, and it's easy to grow. So this is a plant that's great for anybody's garden. And as our experts, this is one of our top expert picks that we always recommend is the Makawi yatsubusa because it's so special, so unique. You're going to really enjoy this tree.
Yeah, we're here in zone 6B here at Maplewood Gardens in western North Carolina. We grow this tree in full sun here. It's actually, some other trees are getting bigger, so it's starting to get more dappled light. But as it started out its life, it definitely was in full sun. And it is exceptionally durable for that for us. We love it for that durability, but also that texture and characteristic. It's really unmatched. The only thing that can interest you as much as a Makawi yatsubusa or some of its offspring. And so we do more videos about the Mikawa family and getting into differences and variations of Makawi yatsubusa that have been named. We actually select and go through a lot of Makawi yatsubusa seedlings here at our nursery, and we kind of have some cutting edge unique stuff there too. So there's a lot of unique ones to come that'll have that density of Makawi yatsubusa but some color variances. But we hope you've enjoyed this quick look at Acer Palmatum Mikawa yatsubusa. It's a Japanese maple that, if you want a Japanese maple, it's definitely one you got to have in your garden.
We hope you've enjoyed this video on Makawi yatsubusa. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share this video with your gardening friends. That's how people hear about us and learn about all these cool trees we're talking about. We also add 10 new trees every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. So you'll want to make sure you sign up for our weekly emails on our website. Go to MrMaple.com, sign up for that weekly email so you'll be notified about those things first.
Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.